Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for today's video. Much appreciated. And today I'm going to give you guys a full rundown of the Toyota Series Lake Pickwick, how I fished it, and I'm going to show you guys the exact baits I used and sort of show you how I went about finishing 10th place. Actually, I tied for 10th place in the tournament. It wasn't that I missed it by 3 ounces like I said yesterday. Tied for 10th place. I lost the tiebreaker because they go by who caught the heaviest one-day string, which Brent Crow beat me up by a couple ounces. And also, I'm going to tell you guys how you can make top 10s in marquee championship events with no live scope, which I didn't have any live scope here. And but I've got my baits out here that I caught them on, so I'm going to go over everything, how I developed the game plan. But real quick, just guys, got some housekeeping tips to get caught up on here. That's part of the video. If it wasn't for these things, I wouldn't be doing the video, so much appreciated you guys listen to a little bit. But a couple different things here. If you hadn't had a chance, go check out fishthemoment.com, our lake map breakdowns that Johnny and I are doing. I'm way behind on my maps from being gone for 2 tournaments. I'm going to get caught up this week, but we got lake maps all over the country, your favorite lake, divided by seasons, 40 GPS areas on there. Download onto your computer with advice and tips on how to approach each other. We got maps for offshore fishing, shallow fishing. Johnny's doing the offshore, I'm doing the shallow. You can check that out by going to the lake map breakdown section at fishthemoment.com. I'll include a link in the description. And also on my channel here, if you guys hadn't had a chance to subscribe, please hit that subscribe button. Also, if anybody interested in becoming members of the channel, just go to my YouTube homepage, click on the About section, hit Intuitive Memberships, and you get extra videos every week, access to my personal email address. And finally, you guys are interested, or actually 2 more things. You guys are interested in any on-the-water lessons with me this fall, shoot me a message on my Instagram page, my private page, Block It Randy. My Facebook page is still hacked. Can't get messages there. And I'll give you guys the info from that. And finally, if you guys want to order any of these baits, all the stuff that I'm talking about here today is available at Baitworks. I'll include the link in the description. You can order them online or go by the store in Springfield. So, okay, got all that out of the way. Okay, here's the deal, guys. I'm gonna go over the whole thing, let you guys know how that happened and everything. I only had 2 days to practice at Pickwick, and it wasn't even really full 2 days because I was coming from the Bassmaster Open at Grand Lake, and I didn't have time to get down there, so I had 2 days to practice. So in practice, my plan was I needed to find an area that I could learn real quick because I didn't have a very long practice. So the first day of practice, I ran down to Bay Springs Lake. And the reason I went to Bay Springs is it's a clear water lake, a lot of spotted bass, and you can get to it from Lake Pickwick, is legal in the tournament. And I figured with the weather, I knew that we had rain coming in the tournament. I thought it would get those big spotted bass fired up, and it didn't. I did terrible the first day of practice. Just caught a couple small keepers. Was not happy with it at all. Second day, I ran up. I put in at McFarland Park, which is on the upper end of Lake Pickwick, the complete opposite end that we were taken out of. And I fished up there on that north end a little bit, like at the tail races for half a day. Didn't do any good. Then I took out and I went over and launched in Lake Wilson. And I fished the half a day in Lake Wilson. Did terrible. You know, again, caught a few keepers. And it wasn't anything that I felt that I could really build on. So going into the tournament, I planned on fishing that upper end of Pickwick because I felt that the potential was there. Even though I caught a few, but there was a lot of water, and I was pitching a jig just on Main River laydowns. And the jig I'm going to show you guys here, guys, I'm not going to show you all of it, but this is the jig that I'm designing for Baitworks, and we've already got it done. It's going to be coming out real soon. Here's just a sneak preview of it right here. I've worked for 30 years developing this particular jig here, so I'll give you guys the info when it comes out. But I got the bites on this prototype jig, Zoom Super Chunk Junior trailer, just pitching laydowns on the Main River, and that was my plan going into the tournament. So anyway, at the end of the day, on the second day of practice, I was running across one of those grass flats, and I hit something out there. I don't know what it was. I was in 4 foot of water. I've never hit a stump on this flat before. And it was just like a boom, just like that. And I trimmed my motor up, and there was no damage to the skag, no damage to the prop, but the prop shaft was bent like a pretzel. I mean, it must have been a piece of wood that hit the edge of the blade just perfect. And if you guys saw the video, you saw how bad it was. And it was, you could still run the boat, but like when you got up on plane, the motor would just really wobble and vibrate. And I had guys telling me, man, you can't run that thing, it's gonna spin the prop shaft off. But I had no choice because the service crew was not there for Yamaha. They must have had something else going on. I called everybody. Boatworks tried to help me. Everybody tried to help me find a lower unit and a prop on the day off. Couldn't get one. So I was forced to fish going the first day of the tournament with the bent prop shaft. So I knew that I couldn't run very far. I didn't know how far the thing would go. It could vibrate off in a mile. I just didn't know. So the first day of the tournament, I had to totally re-prepare my tackle. I knew that what the lower end looked like. I'd fished down there before, but I hadn't even made a cast down there going into the first day of the tournament. So my plan was, I was just going to go out that first day and just go fishing, just like I talked to you guys. Just figure out the fish in the moment, like what Johnny says. So I basically ran down the lake as soon as I took out of the no lake zone, and I just ran down the lake, and anything that looked good, I stopped and fished it. The first fish that I caught I stopped on the steep rocky bank. It was like a main lake point with a steep rocky bank. And I threw I started out with, this is the Megabass SV3 spinnerbait. This is the exact spinnerbait I used the entire tournament here. This is a finesse spinnerbait. It's a compact finesse spinnerbait, yet it's got a pretty stiff wire on it, natural fish looking head on it. You know, it's got like sort of a natural trailer built into the skirt. The skirt comes factory. This is a 1/2 ounce model. And I started paralleling those bluffs, and right off the bat, I caught a 4 1/4 pound smallmouth, a big one, on the spinnerbait here. And then about another 100 yards down, I caught my second keeper, a good solid 2 1/2 pounder. So this is right off the bat. So at that point, it's pretty early in the day, the first day, and I got 2 good ones in the boat, 2 solid, you know, 1/4 and 1 2 3/4. Good start to the day. And I started running the spinnerbait thinking it was going to be really good with the cloud and winds, and I just couldn't get them to bite it. They just quit biting it for whatever reason. I don't know what the deal was on it. So at that point, it's like 11 o'clock in the morning. I've got 2 fish the first day of the tournament, and I started getting, again, on those steeper rocky banks. And I went to the Megabass Vision 110, just my flagship Megabass Vision 110 in the Pro Blue model. This is like Pro Blue and jerkbait, guys, is like green pumpkin and worm. You can't go wrong with it. But this is the jerkbait I was throwing here, and I started paralleling those rocky banks with it. Wound up catching 2 more on that, and then on the same deal, steep rocky banks. And then my 5th fish, I only had 5 bites all day long. My fish came on the prototype jig on just a main lake laydown tree on there. And that gave me my 5 fish the first day, almost 14 pounds. That was the deal on that. So second day of the tournament, again, we were supposed to have the same type of weather conditions on day 2. And I knew that I was going to have a tough time. If I ran the same water, I just felt that no more bites than I got. I really felt that I was in for a really tough day of fishing. I didn't think that, you know, I could duplicate that 14 pounds. And I figured I needed about a 14-pound bag to make a check in the tournament. So, are you up? Hold on, I get Elijah taken care of, guys, here. Okay, we got Elijah squared away. We didn't get home last night but drove straight back from the tournament. We got home like at 2:30 in the morning, so everybody was a little tired around here this morning. So anyway, guys, second day of the tournament, I was analyzing it. Weather was supposed to be about the same. Didn't feel like I could duplicate the same water. So I basically, again, decided just to go fishing. I was gonna start where I left off and keep going up the lake, just putting around 25, 30 miles an hour, fishing whatever looks good. So got up there, started, you know, where I left off, and just started doing everything. Started throwing the spinnerbait, through the top water even a little bit, through the jerkbait, nothing. And about 10 o'clock in the morning, I came up to this one boat dock, and I flipped the new prototype jig over the on the inside part near the walkway part of it, like over a steel cable, and I caught my biggest fish of the day, one about 4 1/4, and it took me forever to get it in. It's like I couldn't, it's like I couldn't reach it with a net. We couldn't get to net. It was too far over there. So I was trying to figure out how to get this 4-pounder in, because it's like it was so far out there. I had to extend my rod as far as I could out there. And I'm fighting it like with this much line on over a cable and a cross beam. So I finally just had to lift that 4¼ pounder on dead weight over the thing and swung it into the boat. 17-pound test Seaguar and Visex line, got that fish in the boat. And that was a good one to start off the day with. I knew that that was, you know, if I could just back it up with 4 more, I'd be really good shape. Fished around there a little bit more, and I caught my second keeper, just a small 15-incher on the jig around another dock. So I fished and fished and fished, and another, man, it was probably 2 hours without a bite. And it just didn't feel right. There was a lot of boats in the area. You know how things just, you feel like you're just fishing. I felt like I had to make a major move. I had to weigh in at 3 o'clock. It was 1 o'clock. I had 2.5 hours. I got 2 fish in the boat. So I thought about it, took a deep breath, just sat down for a second. I said, I got to make a move. And I remember this one rocky bank stretch of rocks down the lake. It was about 25 miles from where I was. And I just said, I'm going to go for it. I said, if I spin the prop off, so be it, because if I'd have 2 fish, it's not going to do me any good anyway. So took off for this area, pushed it harder, ran about 45 miles an hour, prop vibrating like crazy. And I get down to this section down there, and I start to crank, and I was cranking this Megabass Z2 crankbait. Guys, this Megabass Z2 is getting to be my favorite crankbait. I've caught so many fish on this thing. And again, you can get all this stuff at Baitworks. I'll include the link, all the stuff, the SP3 spinner baits, the Z2 crankbaits, the jerk baits, soon to be prototype jig. You can get them all at Baitworks at the link here in the description. So I started cranking the rocks with the Z2 Megabass. Right off the bat, I catch a good one, like a 3.5 pounder on it. So yeah, that gave me 3 like that. And I still got about an hour and a half to fish. Maybe about an hour and a half to fish at the most, maybe hour and a half. Because I don't know if I can even make it back in. I'm 20 miles away from the weigh-in at least, and I don't know if I've got enough time to make it back in, or even if the motor's going to make it. So I start fishing, catch another one, catch my 4th keeper on the thing, just a small keeper, and then about another 30 minutes into it, I catch another big one, like a 3¾ pounder. So I've got a 4, I've got 2 over 3, I've got 2 just small keepers. So I'm feeling pretty good at this point. I mean, I knew that if I could get one more solid fish, I'd make the top 10. And I felt that I needed to leave at about 3 o'clock to be safe to get back in. Maybe a little bit more, 3 o'clock at the latest. I had to weigh in at 3:30, and right at about the time I made that decision, I caught another one and culled. I culled a skinny one out, which gave me over 15 pounds. And I knew at that point that I figured I needed 14 probably to make the top 10, but I knew I had probably 15. So I left 10 minutes early, ran in hard. There was boats following me and passing me, so I knew if I broke down, I could get a ride. So I pushed it pretty hard, and I got back to the weigh-in with like 15 minutes to go. And I'm pretty sure, I could have caught another good one if I'd have stayed 15 minutes, because they were just biting at the time there. So get to the weigh-in. I'm in second place forever, and to make a long story short, by the time the weigh-in's over, there was 5 guys left to weigh in. One guy came in, tied me for 10th place. I lost the tiebreaker, finished 11th, had to make the long drive home. So anyway, that was the way I approached the tournament pretty much. It was a junk fishing tournament. And one of the things about that, guys, is like you can sort of take away from this tournament is like, I made the top 10 in this championship tournament with no live scope, qualified for the championship with no live scope. You don't need a live scope. It's great to play with. Yeah, it's going to help you out in some tournaments. Don't feel like you have to get on the live scope bandwagon. You don't. You can still compete in that, because I really felt that if I would have made it to the top 10 today, I'd have had a real shot to win. The fish were biting. They were unmolested. Nobody was fishing this area. That it is what it is there. So anyway, the thing to take away from this tournament, guys, is when you're looking for fish and you're trying to find fish, stay open-minded. You got to just fish what feels good. Fish with your intuition and your instincts. And if you're fishing down an area and it feels right, stay with it. If you're fishing through an area and it just doesn't feel right, make a move. It's just like when I had 2 fish on that jig, and you know, it just didn't feel right even after I caught those 2 fish and made the move. That's something that you develop as an angler with experience, being able to trust your instincts like that. So anyway, that was the last tournament here. That was the wrap up. Like I said, it was I'm considering I had a bent prop shaft. I'm happy with the outcome, but I'm really disappointed and I'm not fishing today. But I'm happy for the guys that did, because it was not an easy tournament. This tournament was a grind. Even though there were some good bags, it was not easy to get bites. There's a lot of dead water on Pickwick, and even though I did good in the tournament, Pickwick is still one of my least favorite lakes in the country. If you saw my video last month, I talked about Grand and Pickwick being my 2 least favorite lakes, and I don't know why, but I just don't. It's a tough lake to fish, man. It's if you're not on the fish there, it's just very hard to run around the lake and just get bites. So anyway, guys, much appreciated for y'all following me all year long. I know you guys have given me a tremendous amount of support. I'm just really humbled by that. You guys have dropped comments at my tournaments all year, supporting me, encouraging me. I read every single comment, and I really appreciate you guys doing that. I really do. So thanks again. And like I said, if you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll get back on the video schedule here, and hopefully you can share some stuff that helps everybody catch some more fish. Talk to you later.